Thank you. Well, KSL reporting that their longtime anchor, Dick Nourse, has passed away at the age of 83. Now, Nourse was a Utah TV legend, anchoring for the station for 43 years. Nourse's life career tracks a clear path through the history of our state and our nation. He was the only Utah television reporter to visit Vietnam during the war, and he had the honor of following the Olympic torch from Greece to Salt Lake City in 2002. KSL believes he anchored more than 20,000 broadcasts in his time. Our thoughts and our prayers and our love, of course, go out to the colleagues at KSL today.
Well, he was a good friend, and legendary Utah TV broadcaster Dick Nourse has passed away. Tiffany Belknap-Forsey making that announcement on Facebook, saying a family was with him last night when he passed away and that he'd been battling pneumonia. Dick Nourse anchored the news here in Utah for 43 years, 1965 to 2007. Funeral arrangements still being made. We'll have that information for you as soon as we get it. Dick Nourse, dead at the age of 83 today. Our thoughts go out to Dad and Dane and his extended family.
Never can forget that voice. Welcome back, everyone. He was an icon in Utah television news for decades, and tonight we are sad to report that legendary TV news anchor Dick Nourse has died at the age of 83. Fox 13 news anchor Bob Evans takes a look back at his legacy.
Dick Nourse was the main anchor at our competitor, KSL-5, for 43 years, from 1964 until his retirement in 2007, and was a huge part of this community. Nourse had two well-publicized near-fatal bouts with cancer, and while a cause of death has not been publicized, Nourse recently wrote about his battle with pulmonary fibrosis. To everyone who knew and worked with him, he was larger than life. I spoke with my dear friend, KSL anchor and religion reporter Carol Makita this afternoon. How are you guys doing over there? I mean, are you guys holding up okay?
I was okay until I heard his voice. And then the tears came. Sorry. And they will continue to. He was very dear to each one of us in a different way. And I count myself so very fortunate to have worked with him and learned from him. He loved his family. He loved his colleagues. He loved what he did every day, determined to come and do it as well as he had done it the day before, if not better.
Carol says Dick loved the business of journalism and the state of Utah. Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson shared his condolences today. He wrote, "Dick was one of a kind. He defined Utah media and will leave a lasting legacy. I will miss my friend and former neighbor and send my love to his family and loved ones." And a quick personal note. I was in college at BYU when I first watched Dick Nourse do what he did so well. And it was then that I determined that that's what I wanted to do. And there are countless others just like me. He inspired all of us. Thank you so much, Dick, for everything. Funeral arrangements have yet to be announced. In studio, Bob Evans, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Good evening. I'm Dick Nourse.
Eyewitness News. It's more than our name. It's what we do.
It is with heavy hearts tonight that we report the loss of a former colleague, mentor, and most of all, friend. Dick Nourse passed away at the age of 83. To honor his more than 4 decades as the face of KSL, we continue to reflect on the tremendous legacy he leaves behind. And I figured no one better to do that than 4 people who knew and loved him and worked with him. It is with heavy hearts, all of us. Carol, you worked alongside him the longest.
Well, there are so many memories flooding back, but I think we all remember the joy with which he approached his love of this journalism in which we are all engaged. And he always made us laugh before he made us concentrate. And I watched him every day, every script, check every fact. And if he wasn't sure, he went to the reporter. And if it wasn't clear, then it was fixed. If you want to get it right, then you say it the right way. Every single time. I've never forgotten his constancy, day in and day out. And I have such wonderful memories of that. I try to do the same thing.
Yeah, I have equally fond memories in that he loved and treated everyone wonderfully.
Yes.
And people loved him for it. And you knew that when you went anywhere with Dick, whether it was a story, whether you went to Greece, and people thronged him, they loved him. And even in Greece, when we're covering the story on a different continent, within hours, he was at the embassy office as the guest of honor.
The thing I remember about Dick is that even just as a young journalist, I started here. My first year was his last year, and he remembered everybody's names. He asked questions, like you said. Journalism was always top of mind for him, so he wanted to know what you were doing, why you were doing it. But he would always come into the newsroom singing.
Yes.
He'd go for a lunch break, but then come back, and he would come in with that low baritone voice, and he would be singing some song, and just... you wanted to be around him. He was a magnet. And as someone who grew up in this market and wanted to be like him and then to be here with him, could you imagine sitting down? I've got Dick Nourse on one side of me and Bruce Lindsay on the other. I was terrified.
Same.
But the respect, he was just, he spoke and you listened.
I was across town at another station when he was here, but here's the thing. Everyone, it didn't matter if you worked here, even though I didn't know him personally, we watched. And he was a standard. When it came to anchoring the news and to being a journalist, he was the standard. And so it wasn't just here in KSL. It was all newsrooms across not only Salt Lake City, but also across the country, too. You mentioned KSL, anywhere across the country, Dick Nourse and KSL, they're together. They're together.
And today we're hearing from colleagues throughout the city who are sharing our loss and enjoying the moment of those memories with Dick, because he would be out and about, and I'm sure he commented on their stories and how they were doing them as well, and they appreciated that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, all that insight, fantastic. Thank you. Stay with KSL as we remember Dick Nourse coming up at 6:30 tonight. We're going to share more on his life, his career, and the incredible legacy that he leaves behind. Welcome back. We have some news to report that touches close to home here at KSL and for many in our community. Iconic news anchor Dick Nourse has died at the age of 83.
He has been battling pneumonia for a few years, and he died in St. George, surrounded by his family. Carol Makita shares that throughout his life, he'd overcome serious health battles, and it was one of the things that brought him closer to viewers.
Good evening. I'm Dick Nourse.
From his first newscast in 1964, Dick Nourse became the trusted voice of KSL-5 News for the next 43 years. But behind the scenes, he battled cancer 3 times. In 1980, he stepped away from the news to fight for his life, diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. After 3 weeks in the hospital, Shelley Thomas talked with him.
What are you feeling right now after what you've been through so far? Kind of what's going through your mind?
I think you realize the importance of life more than anything, because it's scary. You know, somebody says, "Hey, you got cancer," and I'm 40 years old, just turned 40. I'm still young yet. I still got a lot of things I want to do. I can see me now out waging the cancer battle for other people.
Thank you for being a friend.
And wage that battle for other people, he did.
Back again.
For decades, Dick put heart and soul into the fight for a cure for cancer. He cheered on hundreds who called him when they learned they had cancer. He even wore those little yellow shorts on the newscast the night of that cancer run because a viewer promised to donate $50 more to the American Cancer Society.
I really feel good. I feel like I'm on the mend.
In 1996, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Doctors caught it early. It had not spread into his lymph nodes or surrounding tissue. That key was early detection, he told medical reporter Ed Yates, with both a physical exam and a blood antigen test.
I think men, from time to time, don't want to talk about, especially prostate concerns, because they feel like you're half a man once you have to go through some of this. And believe me, you're not. The doctor expects me to be fully in control, of my life as it was before.
But 17 years later, at age 72, the fight began again. After experiencing a nagging sore throat 4 months before, Dick was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma caused by a virus.
They found a tumor on the back of my tongue.
That tumor was nearly as big as a golf ball. Doctors removed it, and what they could not get was treated with radiation and chemotherapy.
Fortunately, it sounds pretty bad, but that's the easiest one to cure.
5 days a week for 6 weeks, he climbed onto a table, put on a mask, and held still under a machine that zapped him 11 times with a high-level X-ray beam. The procedure was painless, but not the after effects.
Your throat is just constantly inflamed and burned. It's like a bad, bad sunburn.
He says he was angry at first, but he learned more about himself.
I guess that I still had a little bit of fight in me. I've got a lot to live for.
His wife, Deb, and son, Dane, and grandchildren. That final treatment took 15 minutes, followed by high fives and hugs all around, including with his radiation therapists. Finally, it was over, except for the bell. Dick lost 20 pounds on a liquid diet.
The first thing I want to do, what I can taste, is get 3 kraut dogs and 3 chili dogs, man, and I'm going for it.
KSL-5 viewers trusted Dick Nourse to deliver the news, and he did it with a passion. But he also wanted to share his private challenges, to let us all know, despite his larger-than-life image, he was one of us. Carol Makita, KSL-5 News.
Oh, and
miss that swagger.
Don't you?
Yes.
That voice, that laugh, that swagger. But there is something more to the cancer, and that is that he took his heartfelt feelings to the community. Every night between newscasts, he would sit at his desk and call people suffering from cancer and let them know that he understood what it was like and that he was with them. And we heard it in the newsroom, and we honor him now for that, because there are so many people out there who experience those phone calls.
He was so generous in many ways like that.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the things you don't see, right? You share those stories, unfortunately, after he passes, but let you know what kind of man he was.
Yes, a very big heart.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Carol. TV, we have heavy hearts with the loss of our longtime anchor and dear friend, Dick Nourse. He passed away at his home overnight, surrounded by family. Carol Makita talked to a few of our colleagues who shared their memories of a special man.
Dick Nourse was passionate about journalism. He loved his family and all of us as his friends. We will never forget him or the things he taught us.
Up next,
Bruce Lindsay was Dick's longtime co-anchor.
So many nights between broadcasts, Dick was on the phone in the next cubicle calling people who had cancer to say, I have a sense of what you're going through, and I want you to hang in there, buddy. You know, Dick's heart was as big as his voice. It was as big as his personality. And it's a privilege in my life to have been close to him.
When I started in 1978, very few women were on television, and a lot of people didn't think they should be there. But Dick was always the most encouraging voice in my ear and helped me so much. Dick was very proud of being a journalist. He believed in fairness and accuracy, and he drilled that into each and every one of us all the time.
Dick also made us laugh. Heber Barker was the colleague responsible for Dick's microphone.
Before each newscast, instead of doing your standard mic check, 1, 2, 3, you know, Dick he thought that was boring.
Instead, Dick did his quote of the day just for Heber, who has kept them all from 1980.
And sometimes I would circle if I just thought it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
KSL without Dick is like Utah Lake without catfish.
He had a great sense of humor, and he loved to share that.
Dick battled cancer 3 times and shared that with viewers.
But he was so open about it, and I can't even put a number to how many people he touched, maybe even helped save lives. Just to watch him work and how he handled people, I thought was a great lesson for all of us.
What we will all remember is the man with the tender heart.
And there's a place for that in journalism. I mean, you and I know that. We believe that, and we will forever honor the memory of Dick, who taught us a lot of that.
Dick Nourse was a TV legend. He was also our mentor and our friend. Carol Makita, KSL-5 News.
Carol, thank you. So many memories. He treated everyone like a friend, and that's why he is so beloved everywhere he went. Whether you were going to an interview or to grab a burger, people swarmed him everywhere we went.
And we'll never forget the shorts, right?
Those yellow shorts, yep.